The stars were supposed to be silent. That's what the Krylax Imperium believed for 10,000 years as they expanded across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, until they met us. I remember the day we made first contact. I was just a junior officer on the diplomatic vessel Horizon's Dawn. We detected their massive fleet approaching our colony on Proxima Centauri B. Everyone expected the usual protocol: cautious communication, cultural exchange, maybe some minor territory disputes. What we got instead was an ultimatum: surrender or be eliminated. You see, the Krylax had conquered 17 species before us. Their technology was centuries beyond ours. Their warriors stood 3 meters tall with exoskeletons that could withstand direct energy weapon hits. They had never known defeat. So when our captain responded with a simple "no, thank you," their supreme commander actually laughed. They attacked at dawn. Their warships darkened the sky above New Seattle. Everyone thought it would be over in hours. Everyone was wrong. What the Krylax didn't understand, what no alien species had ever understood, was the humans don't fight like other creatures in the galaxy. While the Vraxians evolved perfect camouflage, and the Mendari developed telepathic defenses, humans took a different path. We weren't the strongest, the fastest, or the most technologically advanced. But we had something no other species possessed: an almost pathological refusal to accept defeat. I watched from orbit as civilian miners converted industrial drilling equipment into makeshift weapons. I saw farmers rig atmospheric harvesters into traps that could down Krylax dropships. When the aliens cut communications between settlements, humans created a resistance network using technology so old the Krylax eye couldn't detect it. Actual paper messages and radio waves. The aliens controlled the skies, but with each passing day, they lost more ground forces than they could explain. Their commanders couldn't comprehend how primitives with inferior technology kept outsmarting their battle computers. They didn't understand that humans had been practicing the art of warfare against each other for millennia. We had turned killing into a science long before we reached the stars. By the 3rd week, something unprecedented happened. The Krylax began to retreat. Not strategically, they were running. For the first time in their history, they faced an enemy that wouldn't break, wouldn't surrender, and somehow kept turning their own weapons against them. That's when the real truth about humanity emerged. We're not just survivors or fighters. We're something else entirely. Something that makes more advanced species look at us with a mixture of horror and fascination. The galaxy is filled with apex predators, telepaths, and beings that can manipulate energy with their minds. But there's a reason humans now have a seat on the Galactic Council despite being newcomers. There's a reason the Krylax Imperium signed the first peace treaty in their history. There's a reason why, when a new threat emerges from the void between galaxies, they're sending me and a battalion of human Marines to investigate. I'm Commander Chen, and I'm about to lead the first human expedition into the dead zone. The distress signal we received yesterday shouldn't exist. Nothing lives out there. At least, that's what we've always been told. But as our ship approaches the edge of known space, I can't help wondering, what could possibly frighten creatures that have evolved in the most hostile environments imaginable? And why did they specifically request human help? The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated slightly as we crossed the boundary into the dead zone. My tactical officer, Lieutenant Rivera, looked up from her station with concern in her eyes. "Commander, all long-range scanners are experiencing interference. Something's not right about this region of space." I nodded, having expected complications. The dead zone earned its name centuries ago, when the first Arcturian probe ships disappeared without trace. Since then, 17 different species had attempted exploration, and none returned with answers. Just static and silence. "Keep us on course for the distress signal," I ordered. "And tell the Marines to prep for potentially hostile contact." What I didn't tell the crew was that High Command had shared classified intelligence with me before our departure. The distress signal contained encrypted data that only human neural patterns could decode. A technological impossibility according to every xenobiologist in the Galactic Council. Whatever was calling us knew things about human cognition that even we didn't fully understand. The ship's hull creaked as strange energies washed over us. Outside the viewports, space itself seemed different, darker, with stars that appeared to flicker rather than shine steadily. Something about this region defied the laws of physics as we understood them. In my quarters that night, I reviewed footage from the Krylax War. Not the sanitized history taught in schools, but the raw, unfiltered truth. Humans hadn't just fought back with clever tactics and repurposed mining tools. We'd done things that shocked even hardened alien military observers. A squad of teenagers had reprogrammed a Krylax battle mech and walked it straight into their command center. A grandmother in New Seattle had synthesized a biological agent that dissolved their exoskeletons using nothing but farm equipment and high school chemistry knowledge. But most disturbing was what we found in the Krylax commander's final transmission before their retreat. Translated, it read, "They do not fear death. They laugh in its face. Each human would gladly die if it meant killing two of us. This is not a species. It is a weapon." Those words haunted me as I prepared my team for whatever awaited us at the source of the distress call. I'd selected 12 Marines, each a specialist with combat experience from the Krylax War or the Outer Rim conflicts. Among them was Surgeon Wu, a demolitions expert who'd single-handedly destroyed 3 Krylax carriers with nothing but mining explosives and a stolen shuttle. "You think it's a trap, Commander?" Wu asked as we prepped our gear. His scared face remained impassive, but his eyes revealed his excitement at the prospect of combat. "Everything in space is a trap, Sergeant," I replied. "The question is whether we're the prey or the bait." 3 days into the dead zone, we found it. A massive structure floating in space, not built but grown, organic curves and crystalline surfaces catching the light of distant stars. It was ancient, predating human civilization by millions of years according to our preliminary scans, and it was waking up. As our shuttle approached the structure, the distress signal changed. No longer a simple beacon, it became a message, words forming directly in our minds rather than through communication systems. "The Devourers are returning," it whispered in our thoughts. "Only the Terran savagery can stop what comes. You were made for this purpose." The shuttle bay opened before us like a mouth, inviting us in without any action on our part. Something wanted us inside. Something had been waiting for humans specifically, perhaps for longer than we'd existed as a species. I gave the order to proceed, knowing full well we might be flying into our deaths. But as I looked at my team's faces, I saw no fear, only determination and curiosity. That uniquely human combination that had carried us from cave-dwelling primates to star travelers within a cosmic eye blink. The structure swallowed our shuttle whole, and the walls around us began to pulse with light, as if the entire facility was suddenly coming alive after eons of dormancy. A holographic figure materialized before us, humanoid but clearly not human, with features that seemed to shift and change as we watched. "Welcome, warriors of Earth," it said in a voice that reverberated through our bones. "We have watched your kind for thousands of years, waiting for you to reach the necessary potential. Now, we must show you what you were truly evolved to fight." The holographic figure led us deeper into the structure, through corridors that seemed to reshape themselves as we passed. Our suit sensors struggled to make sense of the environment. Readings fluctuated between extreme radiation and none at all. Temperatures that should have been lethal yet felt perfectly comfortable. "You may call me the custodian," the figure said. "I am the last remnant of those you might call the architects. We seeded countless worlds, guided evolution on thousands of planets. But Earth was special." Lieutenant Rivera kept her weapon ready, never fully trusting our mysterious host. "Special how?" she asked, voicing the question on all our minds. The custodian's form flickered before responding. Most species evolve to fit their environment perfectly. The Mendari developed telepathy to hunt prey that could blend perfectly with their surroundings. The Krylax evolved exoskeletons to survive their high-gravity homeworld. But humans, the figure paused, studying us with ancient eyes. Humans never specialized. You remained adaptable, capable of surviving in virtually any environment through ingenuity rather than biological adaptation. As we entered a vast chamber, the walls lit up with images from Earth's history, not just our space-age accomplishments, but scenes stretching back to prehistoric times. Humans hunting mammoths with nothing but sharpened sticks, ancient armies clashing on forgotten battlefields, the moon landing, the Mars colonies, the Krylax War. Your species turned the most basic survival instinct into an art form. The custodian continued. When faced with extinction, most species simply perish. Humans fight back with everything they have, and more importantly, with everything they can imagine. Sergeant Wu snorted. So we're good at killing things. Tell us something we don't know. The chamber darkened suddenly, and new images appeared, terrifying glimpses of something moving between the stars. Not ships, but vast living things with forms that hurt the eye to look upon. I felt my stomach lurch as my brain struggled to process what I was seeing. The devourers, the custodian explained. They consume not just matter and energy, but possibility itself. They feed on potential futures, leaving only one path forward: extinction. My kind fought them for millennia before we finally created this barrier, this dead zone, to keep them contained in their home galaxy. But the barrier is failing. Back on the ship, things were growing tense. Chief Engineer Okafor sent me a private message while the custodian was showing us ancient star maps. "Commander, something's happening to our systems," she reported, her usually calm voice edged with concern. "The ship's quantum processors are running calculations we didn't program. It's like the structure is talking directly to our computers." I ordered her to initiate isolation protocols, but it was too late. Our ship's AI had begun integrating with the ancient systems of the structure, forming some kind of hybrid intelligence, neither human nor architect in origin. Meanwhile, Rivera discovered something troubling in the structure's central archives. The architects hadn't just been observing humanity. They had subtly guided our evolution, ensuring we developed certain traits: our aggression, our resourcefulness, our ability to form complex social structures for warfare, even our capacity for self-sacrifice. "They engineered us as weapons," Rivera whispered, her face pale. "Generation after generation, nudging our development toward becoming the perfect soldiers for their ancient war." When confronted, the custodian didn't deny it. "We gave your kind a gift, the potential to survive what's coming. Would you rather we had left you defenseless?" Before I could respond, alarm signals blared throughout the structure. On a massive display, we watched as ripples appeared at the edge of the dead zone. The barrier was breaking down faster than anticipated. "They sense you," the custodian said, its voice suddenly urgent. "Human minds are bright to them, attractive, a new type of sustenance they've never encountered before." The Marines exchanged glances, hands tightening on weapons designed to fight enemies of flesh and metal, not cosmic horrors beyond comprehension. "How long do we have?" I asked. "Days, perhaps. We must prepare. The architects left weapons here, designed to be wielded by humans specifically. Technology beyond anything our Galactic Council possesses." The chamber floor became transparent, revealing a vast armory below. Sleek ships unlike any I'd seen before, weapons that hummed with strange energies, armor that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. "This is why the Krylax and the others fear you," the custodian explained. "Deep in their genetic memory, they recognize what you were designed to be: the guardians against extinction, the warriors who would face the darkness between galaxies." But Sergeant Wu had discovered something else: records showing previous attempts to fight the devourers. Other species, now extinct, had been uplifted by the architects before humans. Each had failed, their civilizations and home planets completely erased from existence. "We're not the first," Wu said grimly, "just the latest experiment." As if in answer to his words, the structure shuddered violently. Through the viewports, we watched as a tear appeared in the fabric of space itself, a wound in reality from which something vast and impossible began to emerge. The custodian's form grew bright, almost painful to look at. "They're here sooner than expected. You must decide now, Commander Chen. Take the weapons we offer and fight for all life in this galaxy, or retreat and watch as everything you know is consumed, potential future by potential future, until only one remains." My comm unit crackled with emergency signals from across human space. Whatever was happening here wasn't isolated. Rifts were appearing near Earth, near our colonies, near every world humans had touched, as if our very presence had somehow accelerated the Devourer's arrival. I looked at my team, at these humans who had followed me into the unknown without hesitation. I thought about the billions back home who had no idea what was coming, and I thought about what the custodian had said, that humans had been shaped to face exactly this moment. "Show us how these weapons work," I said finally, "and then get us back to Earth. If humanity was made for war, then let's remind the galaxy why we're the species they fear most." The custodian's form seemed to smile, though it had no proper face. "The Devourers consume possibility, but they have never encountered the human capacity to create possibility where none existed before. That is your true weapon, Commander. Not these tools, but what you can imagine doing with them." As my team began to train with technology beyond our comprehension, I received one final transmission from Earth before communications failed completely. High Command had detected the rifts. They were mobilizing everything, not just military forces, but civilians too. Farmers were forging weapons. Children were being taught emergency protocols. The entire species was preparing for war, just as we had against the Krylax, but on a scale never before seen. The message ended with words that sent chills down my spine. Unknown entities emerging from spatial anomalies. Conventional weapons ineffective. All colonies reporting similar phenomena. Commander Chen, whatever you found out there, bring it home. Humanity stands ready. The journey back to Earth was nothing like our voyage out. The structure, which the custodian called the Nexus, had transformed our ship, integrating ancient technology with our own. What was once a standard military vessel now pulsed with energies that our sensors couldn't even properly measure. The hull had become something between metal and living tissue, responsive to our thoughts and needs in ways that both fascinated and disturbed my crew. "Approaching Sol system," Lieutenant Rivera announced, her voice tight with tension. "And Commander, it's bad." The view screen showed what remained of our home system's outer defense network, a scattered field of debris where the Ganymede and Titan outposts once stood. Closer to Earth, the combined fleets of humanity and our few alien allies fought a desperate holding action against tears in space itself. There was no other way to describe them. Wounds in reality from which impossibly large tendrils of darkness reached toward our ships, our stations, our home. The Devourers don't just consume matter. The custodian's voice explained through our ship's new hybrid AI. They consume the probability of your existence. If they succeed, humanity won't just die. You will never have existed at all. Wu studied the tactical display with narrowed eyes. How do you fight something like that? Something that can erase you from time itself. By existing more intensely than anything else, I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. By being so undeniably here that reality itself has to acknowledge us. We plunged toward Earth, broadcasting the authentication codes that would identify us as friendly. The weapons the architects had provided us hummed with power, not just physical armaments, but tools that somehow reinforced the fabric of reality around us, that could push back against the entropy the Devourers brought. Back on Earth, something unprecedented was happening. Before communications went dark, we received scattered reports that made little sense at first. Civilians were fighting back against the incursions, not with weapons, but with creation. Artists were painting and sculpting with frantic energy. Musicians played without stopping. Writers typed until their fingers bled. Scientists pushed the boundaries of what was possible with improvised experiments. They're strengthening reality. The custodian explained when I shared these reports. Your people instinctively understand what's needed. More possibility, more potential futures. The devourers feed on the collapse of possibility into a single outcome. Your people are doing the opposite, creating endless new branches of what could be. As we approached Earth's orbit, we encountered a scene both terrible and awe-inspiring. The combined defense fleet was arranged in a formation I'd never seen before, not tactical or strategic, but almost artistic. Ships moved in patterns that created resonance fields, amplifying the effect of the architect weapons we brought back. Admiral Huang's weathered face appeared on our view screen. Chen. About damn time. We've been holding them back with everything we've got, but we're losing ground by the hour. We've brought help, I said, transmitting the schematics for the architect technology and understanding of what we're fighting. Good. Huang nodded. Because we got something strange happening planet-side. Some kind of resistance network forming. Not military. Civilian. People are gathering in community centers, stadiums, town squares, just creating things together. Art, music, stories, inventions, like they somehow know it's helping. The custodian's holographic form flickered beside me. The knowledge was always within your species. The architects embedded it in your deepest instincts. Creation as a form of warfare against extinction. Our ship joined the defensive formation, the architect weapons integrating with Earth's defense grid. For the first time, I saw the devourers clearly, not just the rifts they created, but glimpses of the entities themselves. They existed in dimensions beyond our comprehension, their true forms impossible for human minds to process. What we could perceive were just shadows of their presence, vast, world-sized configurations of darkness that seemed to absorb both light and meaning from everything around them. On the planet below, billions of humans were engaged in a different kind of battle. While we fought with advanced technology and conventional weapons in space, they fought with pure creation, asserting their existence against forces that sought to erase it. Sergeant Wu led a strike team to deploy resonance beacons at key points around the system. Each beacon would strengthen the fabric of reality itself, making it harder for the devourers to consume our timeline. But the mission was nearly suicidal. The areas where reality was thinnest were also where the devourers' influence was strongest. I need volunteers only, I told the assembled Marines. To my pride, but not my surprise, every single one stepped forward. Wu grinned, the scar on his face pulling tight. Die here or never exist at all. Not much of a choice, Commander. Besides, humans were made for this, right? Let's remind these cosmic horrors why they should have stayed in their own galaxy. As the strike teams deployed, Engineer Okafor made a breakthrough with the ship's new hybrid systems. Commander, I think I understand how the architect technology works now. It doesn't just reinforce reality. It can create pockets of heightened existence, spaces where humanity's presence is so strong that nothing can erase it. Like anchor points in the fabric of reality, Rivera added, catching on quickly. If we can establish enough of them, we create a net, I finished. A web of reinforced existence that the devourers can't break through. The plan took shape rapidly, as it always does when humans face extinction. Part desperation, part inspiration, all focused on a single goal, survival at any cost. Admiral Huang coordinated the space defense while I led the deployment of the architect technology. Our ship, now more Nexus than human vessel, became the command center for this unprecedented operation. We were no longer just fighting for human survival. We were fighting for human existence itself. The devourers seemed to sense our plan. Their attacks intensified, focusing on our ship and the strike teams. Wu's squad reported taking heavy losses as reality itself turned hostile around them. Matter behaving according to alien physics, time flowing irregularly, team members experiencing multiple contradictory versions of events simultaneously. It's like they're trying different ways to erase us, Wu reported, his voice breaking up over the comms. Testing which approach works best. But we're still here, Commander. Still human. Still fighting. On Earth, the creative resistance had grown into something beyond what anyone could have predicted. The combined output of billions of humans actively creating, not just art and music, but new ideas, new technologies, new ways of thinking, had generated a field of pure human potential that pushed back against the Devourer's influence. The custodian watched all this with what I could only interpret as wonder. Your species exceeds even the architect's expectations. They designed you to fight, but not like this, not by creating rather than destroying. As Wu's team deployed the final resonance beacon, their shuttle was caught in a reality distortion. I watched in horror as the craft seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, intact, destroyed, never built, still on the assembly line, and countless other possibilities. Beacon activated. Wu's voice came through, somehow maintaining coherence despite the quantum uncertainty surrounding him. Signal strong, but we're losing cohesion. Hard to remember who we are. Focus on your humanity, I ordered, my voice steady despite my fear for them. Remember who you are, what you've done, what you love. Through the chaos, I heard Wu laugh. Never thought dying would be so interesting. The beacon activated fully, completing the network. Across the solar system, the resonance field strengthened, pushing back the rifts. For a moment, it seemed we might have won. Then the Devourers changed tactics. Rather than attacking reality directly, they began targeting the creative centers on Earth, the places where human potential burned brightest. Rifts opened directly above major cities, above gatherings of artists and scientists, above the very places where humanity's resistance was strongest. They're adapting, Rivera said, her voice tight with tension, learning how we fight. The custodian's form flickered intensely. This was always the risk. The Devourers consume possibility, and in fighting them, humans have demonstrated endless possibilities. You've made yourselves the most tempting target in the galaxy. Admiral Huang's fleet moved to intercept the new attacks, but they were spread too thin. Earth's defensive systems were overwhelmed. For every rift they closed, 3 more opened. The resonance field was holding, but weakening as the creative centers came under direct attack. And then, from deep within the largest rift, something emerged, not a tendril or a shadow, but an actual devourer, partially manifested in our reality. It was impossibly vast, a city-sized mass of shifting geometries and non-Euclidean angles that hurt the mind to perceive. Where it touched our reality, matter simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, but retroactively removed from having ever been. If that thing fully manifests, Okafor whispered, Earth doesn't just die. Earth never was. I looked at the impossible enemy before us, at the fleets fighting with everything they had, at the billions of humans on the planet below refusing to be erased from existence. In that moment, I understood why the architects had chosen humanity, why we were the ultimate warrior species, not because we were stronger or smarter or more technologically advanced, but because when faced with the impossible, humans don't accept defeat. We redefine the possible. Custodian, I said, a plan forming in my mind that was either brilliant or suicidal, possibly both. The Nexus technology in our ship, can it be modified to create not just a resonance field, but a resonance weapon? The holographic figure tilted its head. Theoretically, but the power required would be the ship itself, I finished. We'd need to convert the entire vessel into a single pulse of pure potential. Pure human possibility, concentrated into one moment. It would destroy the ship, Rivera said, understanding immediately, and everyone on it. I nodded. But if it works, it would create a feedback loop the Devourers couldn't handle, forcing them to consume so much possibility at once that they'd overload. Forcing cosmic horrors to choke on human potential. Wu's voice came through, his shuttle somehow limping back toward us despite the reality distortions. Sounds poetic, Commander. Count me in. As Earth's defenses faltered and the massive devourer pushed further into our reality, I gave the order to evacuate all non-essential personnel from our ship. The plan spread quickly through the fleet, every vessel contributing power, resources, and volunteers to our desperate gambit. The custodian worked with Okafor to reconfigure our ship's systems, turning the entire vessel into what was essentially a reality bomb. A concentrated burst of human creativity, human potential, human possibility. Not just from those of us on board, but channeling the creative output of the entire planet. Even if this works, Rivera said quietly as we made the final preparations, there's no guarantee we'll survive. There never is, I replied. But that's never stopped us before. As the massive devourer fully breached our reality, as rifts spread across Earth's surface, as the very fabric of human existence began to unravel, we made our final approach. Our ship, now pulsing with energies beyond human comprehension, accelerated toward the heart of the cosmic horror that threatened everything we were and everything we could ever be. In that moment, with annihilation seconds away, I understood the truth that made humans the ultimate warriors in the galaxy. Not our violence or our technology, or even our creativity alone, but our absolute refusal to accept the end of possibility. The devourers consumed potential futures until only extinction remained. But humans created new futures out of nothing but determination and will. For Earth, I said, as I gave the final order. For humanity. For the right to exist. The ship's systems went critical, channeling the combined creative force of billions of humans into a single point in spacetime, aimed directly at the heart of the devourer. The last thing I saw before everything went white was the impossible entity actually recoiling, as if, for the first time in its ancient existence, it felt fear. I woke to the sound of water. Real water, not the recycled stuff from ship systems. For a moment, I couldn't remember who I was or how I'd gotten here. Then it all came rushing back. The devourers, our desperate gambit. The blinding light as our ship channeled the creative force of humanity into a single devastating pulse. By all rights, I should be dead. We all should be. I opened my eyes to find myself in a hospital room on Earth. Actual Earth, with blue skies visible through the window, and birds singing outside. Admiral Huang sat beside my bed, looking considerably more worn than when I'd last seen him. "Welcome back, Commander Chen," he said, his voice gruff but warm. "You've been out for 3 weeks. The others?" I asked, my throat dry. "Rivera's 2 rooms down, already driving the medical staff crazy, demanding to be released. Okafor's back with engineering, helping study what's left of your ship. And Wu," Wang actually smiled. "That crazy bastard was found floating in an escape pod near Mars, singing old war songs to himself. Says he ejected right before you hit the devourer." I tried to sit up. And the devourers. The rifts. Wang's expression became serious. "Gone. All of them. Whatever you did created some kind of, I don't know what to call it. The scientists are calling it a reality reinforcement cascade. The pulse from your ship didn't just destroy the devourer you hit. It traveled through the rifts back to their origin point. The dead zone is truly dead now. Nothing's coming through." I sank back onto the pillows, relief washing over me. The custodian? No sign of it. The Nexus technology integrated into your ship was completely consumed in the blast. Some think the architects themselves might have been the first victims of the devourers, and the custodian was just the last echo of their existence. Wang looked out the window, but they left us quite a legacy. In the weeks that followed, I learned what had happened while I was unconscious. The reality pulse had done more than destroy the devourers. It had fundamentally changed humanity's place in the galaxy. The energy released had altered the fabric of space-time around Earth, creating what scientists were calling a probability fortress, a region where human creativity and potential were amplified to levels never before seen. New technologies were being developed at unprecedented rates. Art and music and literature flourished in ways that defied explanation. It was as if humanity had collectively awakened to our true potential, the potential the architects had always seen in us. The Galactic Council, once wary of humans, now looked to us for leadership. The Krylax Imperium had formally requested an alliance rather than just a peace treaty. Even the most ancient species in known space were sending representatives to Earth, seeking to understand what we had become. 6 months after waking, I stood with Rivera, Wu, and Okafor at the dedication of a memorial to those who didn't make it back. Not just from our mission, but from all the battles humanity had fought to reach this point. "Do you think the architects planned all this?" Rivera asked quietly. "Did they know what would happen if we faced the Devourers?" Wu shrugged, the movement pulling at the new scars on his face. "Does it matter? They may have shaped us, but what we did with that shape was our choice." "I think they hoped," Okafor said thoughtfully. "They created in us the potential for something they couldn't imagine themselves. That's the real legacy they left us. Not just the ability to fight, but the ability to create something new from the fight." As we stood there, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that seemed somehow more vivid than before, I thought about what truly made humans the ultimate warrior species in the galaxy. Not our ferocity or our technology or even our creativity alone, but the way we transformed conflict into progress, threats into opportunities, endings into new beginnings. The Devourers had sought to consume all possibility until only one outcome remained. Humanity had responded by creating possibilities they never anticipated, futures they couldn't devour because they couldn't even conceive of them. That night, as the stars came out over a peaceful Earth, I looked up and wondered what new challenges awaited us among them. Whatever came next, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Humanity would face it as we always had. Together. Creative. Unstoppable. Not because we were designed that way, but because we chose to be.